Welcome, everyone, to the JEM Podcast. Today, we're having a conversation about mediumship, what it is, how it's experienced, and why it matters. I'm joined by the wonderful Concetta Bertoldi. Concetta is an internationally recognized psychic medium, as well as a New York Times best-selling author who has become one of the most recognized voices in modern mediumship. Her work has supported and influenced thousands of people who are navigating grief, spiritual connection, as well as life beyond the physical. Concetta, I am honored to have you here, and I am so excited for this conversation.
Thank you, sweetheart. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much. So, I'd love to start at the very beginning. Do you mind sharing how your journey into mediumship began, as well as what it was like for you to step into that type of a role?
Absolutely. Well, it's interesting. I never remember not hearing them, but I was born in a time when it wasn't really socially acceptable, and it wasn't something that was easy to talk about because there
Mhm.
was really nothing when I was young in the libraries or bookstores that had a lot of information. There was not a lot of information to be had. The
Mhm.
closest I could get was Edgar Casey, and I didn't tell a lot of people about the fact that I heard dead people.
Mhm.
My mother and father knew, my family knew, but it was very difficult, to go to school. Kids are hard enough on other kids. You know what it's like,
Right.
the bullying and all that. But I was able to choose very wisely with the friends that I do and have even to this day because of my ability. And a lot of my friends are friends, for a very, very long time because I was always able to tell, what was safe and what wasn't. Anyway, so as I grew older, and my father was always comfortable with this. My mother in the beginning was not. She was raised in a background that was frightening to her that her daughter had this ability.
Oh,
But it
wow.
came to, yeah, it really, she was born and raised in a Catholic orphanage,
Okay.
basically. And, they frowned on this.
I'm
And so
sure.
when she got out of that place, which was really hellish, it was in Irvington, New Jersey, and she was 18 when she was released. I say released because it was like a prison. Even in the United States, something like that,
Yeah.
existed. But it was the 30s, so or the 40s, and so in those days there wasn't a lot of protection for kids. Anyway, when she married my father, she was 18. My father knew about this ability because his father had it.
Okay.
And so my mother and father, when they had me, my grandfather told my father that this child was going to hear them when my mother was pregnant with me.
Mm.
So he was expecting it, but he didn't say anything to my mother. She discovered it on her own. When she was here, she was so fun, but she used to love to tell the stories of early life. One of them I remember that she enjoyed the most. I was 5, and I came inside from playing outside and told her that my uncle's leg was gone
Oh my
and that it was
goodness.
all, yeah, and it was all bloody. Now this was my mother's brother I was talking about. And my mother was like petrified and said, "That's a horrible thing for a little girl to say. You go outside and play." And then the phone rang, and it was my mother's sister-in-law, my mother's brother's wife, telling her that my uncle had gotten a very bad motorcycle accident and they wanted permission to amputate his leg. And my aunt didn't know what to do. So she called my mother. So that was my mother said her earliest memory of really knowing there was something different,
That's pretty
you know.
wild.
Yeah, it's a true story. And my uncle fortunately did not go on to lose his leg, but it was very badly damaged.
Okay.
Anyway, so my mother and father made an agreement early on because my mother was afraid of this ability that my father, and they had to have the sit down, the talk.
Mm-hmm.
And he told her not to be afraid, that Pop had the same thing and it would serve her and blah blah blah, whatever he said. She then told me that she decided anything had to be better than the way she was taught because she was brought up in this horrible, Catholic orphanage, and said I decided then I would take on Daddy's belief. And they were two different religions, my parents, I must tell
Mm,
you. And it doesn't sound like a big deal, but he was Protestant and she was Catholic. It doesn't sound like a big difference, but in those days it was.
I believe that.
In the 50s it was.
I mean,
But
even
she said,
today, it's still somewhat of
oh,
an
even,
issue.
yes, oh God, yes. But in those days, whew,
Yeah, I'm
but
sure.
absolutely. But anyway, they went on to have a great relationship. My parents, they were married 50 years. But the point was, my mother and father told me that they went on to take on my ability with great embracing. If my mother said, if we saw you shun somebody as a child, we always knew to pay attention.
Oh,
And
wow.
she said it would always turn out you were right. But
Mm,
yeah, because I could sense things.
yeah.
But anyway, I still didn't tell people because as I got older, I had my third book, I believe, is dedicated to a girl named Mushy. Her real name is Cornelia, but I dedicated it to her. She's still in my life today. We became friends when we were 8 years old, and she was probably one of the only people that I confessed to. And she never betrayed me ever. And to this day, she's still a remarkable friend. I call her like a sister. But
Mm,
so how I started to go public with disability is that my brother Harold, whom my first book is dedicated to,
mm-hmm.
he passed away at 38 years old from AIDS, and I was 37. And when he passed and came to me, he said, "We need your help. You have to deliver these messages. It's very important, and we need your help." And
Mm,
I was in the mainstream working, so I didn't know how to do this publicly, and I certainly got more comfortable with it by the time I was 37, but I didn't know how to do this in front of other people,
yeah.
and I wasn't a businesswoman. I was never a good student in school, so I didn't even know how to begin to start something like that. But through his encouragement, and he said, "We'll help you. Just say yes. All you have to do is say yes, and we'll take it from there." And it was really nothing short of a miracle because I ended up thinking about it, and circumstances changed in my life that put me in the position to say I would just try. And I said yes. But the interesting thing was I didn't tell people I heard dead people. What I did was I told people I read tarot cards.
Mm,
And I hid behind the cards. You know what I mean? For
yeah.
a while. Until people would come to me and say they knew what the cards meant and I didn't. And they would say that card means this and that. And
It's
finally,
amazing.
yeah, and I had to say, well, to be honest with you, I really don't know how to read cards. I'm hearing dead people. And that's how it came. That's how it started.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, true
I mean,
story.
I'm sure
Yeah.
it must have been extremely scary for you, everything you're sharing, from when you're growing up in a time where it is not
Mhm.
accepted and it's not really
Right.
even known about. That's
Mhm.
a pivotal point. You're just growing as a child and then you're trying to experience life as a medium. That's amazing.
Right. Oh, it gets better because the thing was I was newly married at the time,
Okay.
and I really had it's a long story, but even my own husband, I married him without telling him that I had this
What?
ability.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
Oh yeah, there's so much to it, and the reason was his family when they met me, they just they were not embracing, they were not loving, they
Okay.
were not the kind of people that you would hope to have as in-laws.
Wow.
I feel bad saying it, but sadly, I was really mistreated, and it wasn't something I was ready to share with him because we were already on shaky ground because they were already against me, and they would do anything they could to break us up, and sadly, I didn't tell him until maybe a year after we were married, and that was because we were in marriage counseling, and I had confessed it to the therapist, but not to him. And then she's the one who said, "No, you got to tell him. You got to be honest."
Oh
It's
my
a long story.
goodness.
Yeah, it's really true.
Did
It's worthy of a movie, in my opinion. My story is worthy of a movie because it's so many ups and downs, and it involves so many different chapters in terms of early life,
yeah.
20s, get married at 30, you marry somebody whose family can't stand you, and a husband you're not telling him, and he goes on to think I'm cheating on him because people close to me knew, and they would ask me questions quietly knowing he didn't know anything, and he was thinking I was whispering about
Oh,
something else.
wow.
Oh yeah, it was an amazing story. But you know what? We're married 40 years today, so it
Today?
really, well, not today, but
Oh,
now we're on
I
to
see.
over 40. So, it worked out.
Oh my goodness. Well, happy anniversary.
Yeah, well, that's in September, but thank you
Okay.
anyway. But here's the thing: I have to say that my brother kept his word, because when I did finally agree, I only did it because of circumstances that changed in my life. I was working for one company for 13, 14 years, whatever it was, and the company sold and moved to, I don't remember what state, but I was in another job, after that, and it was a really unhappy job. So when I left that job, I was in between that job and getting a new job, and I said, this is the time to try to do this publicly.
Hmm.
And that's when my husband really stepped up to the plate, because he said, well, I told him, I'm going to start doing this publicly, and you have to make a decision. You're either going to stand by me, and it's a long story, but he
Yeah.
ended up saying, yes, you go try. You'll never know unless you try. He was wonderful. And my life I would say within 9 months, totally changed of going public. My life
Well,
totally changed.
this reminds me, I've seen you talk about free will, fate, and
Mhm.
destiny, and it really makes me
Yeah.
think about that because
Oh, yes.
you had to take that initiative to say, I'm going to do this
Mhm.
publicly.
Mhm.
But then
Mhm.
another component of it is that whole fate and destiny, like it was in
Mhm.
your
Yes.
line to make
Yep.
this
That's
happen.
why I wrote about it, Jen. That's why I wrote about it, because I am a perfect example of destiny
I
and free
love that.
will. And I wrote those things because all my books, by the way, are all written by me. There is no
Hmm.
ghostwriter, if you'll excuse the pun. And I honestly, recorded them when I wrote them. I didn't sit at a computer. I'd be bored to tears. So what I did, my first book, when I wrote it, it's interesting because when I went public, it was such a turn of events. I mean, they were filming it started with The Sopranos as far as celebrities
Oh,
go, and
nice.
they were filming all over the place up here when they were on television. And one soprano came to me, I think it was Federico Castelluccio, and then he went back to the set and he talked about me. Next thing you know, Edie Falco's here, then Vincent Curatola, and the list goes on. And I started getting calls from all other celebrities, because it's a very small world that they live in. And one of them said, it was actually Alec Baldwin. He said, you should really write a book. When I met him and whatever. And he was so kind at the time. He said, you've got this personality, whatever. And he was really very helpful, because it was impossible to get a book deal unless you were somebody really famous.
Yeah.
And today it's even it's impossible today, because the literary world is just tanked so bad due to everybody can read what they want online, and podcasts as well. So there's so much places you can go for information. You don't have to buy a book. You know what I'm saying? So
Hmm.
the literary world is really tanked. But I got lucky because it was before that. And when I wrote my first book, I remember I had meetings, and I was going off all these meetings I got an agent. I was very fortunate. It was like everything fell into place, because it was impossible to get a literary agent. But as luck would have it, I did, and she's still my agent to this day, and I love her. But she took a shot with me, and we took all these meetings to all these publishing houses, and when we went to HarperCollins, when I would take a meeting, there would be a long table, and you usually would meet with one agent. But when I would show up, there'd be 25 people in the room wanting to meet with me to see if they wanted to take me on.
Mm.
Literary agents,
Yeah.
not literary agents. Literary agent. And editor. I'm sorry, editor. My literary agent is separate.
Okay.
So editors would be all in the room, and I didn't know any better, and I would just go in there. There'd be 25 people. I later now, well, 25 years later, realized they were all wanting readings. They were
Oh,
coming in the
wow.
room not to interview me, to see if they wanted to take me on, as an editor. They wanted to know if I would do a reading for them. So I would go in these meetings, and I'd be there for hours doing readings for everybody.
That's crazy.
It's so true.
Yeah.
And then one editor, this is my first book, and I just liked her. She was just a nice girl, and she made an offer. She wanted to represent me. And I said, okay, great. My literary agent suggested we do, because it was HarperCollins, one of the biggest publishing houses in New York. So I was very flattered, and when we got together to brainstorm, well, what are we going to write about exactly? You know, because they had that by that point, James Van Praagh, Sylvia Brown, they were all out there, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So there were many books already available. So they said, well, what do you think, Concetta? And I really was at wit's end, but I said, well, all I can tell you is that they ask the silliest questions people ask. And they go, what do they ask? I said, well, they're worried. They're worried whether dead people see them having sex or dead people see them in the bathroom or,
Yeah.
you know, whatever. Then they went, oh, my God, that's it. And I said, what? That was the one book that had never
Genius.
been written. It
There
was
you
the
go.
first of its kind, a FAQ. And I love that book because you can open it up at any page and it's always interesting. And what I did was I was doing events by then. So I put pieces of paper on every chair with a pencil. And it said, if you could ask Concetta something or a question, anything at all, what would you ask? And we collected all these papers. And that was my first book. And what
Wow.
I did, I didn't write them. What I did was I got a recorder, and I would tape record the question, and then I would tape record the answer. And I did these on these tapes, and I gave them to somebody to transcribe the tapes. And that was my first book. And it was amazing because within 2 months, it went to the New York Times bestseller list.
That's amazing.
So
You
it
were in the
was enough.
flow.
It was divine intervention. And I remember it's so funny because I had gone to Europe. I was in Germany, and I was at a bookstore, and I was with my husband, and I said, I could see my book on that shelf right there.
Mm.
And then I was there, and I got a phone call from my agent when I was there, and she said, foreign rights just sold to Germany.
Wow.
And I was just like, yeah, it was wild. So believe me when I tell you, I feel so blessed. I know people overuse that statement, but I really, truly do feel very, very fortunate and blessed because it was just nothing short of a miracle. You're talking about a girl who never went to college. I was always biggest clown and class flirt, but you could never accuse me of being most likely to succeed,
I love that.
But I tell you, it was divine intervention. And my brother Harold had said to me, you just say yes and we'll take it from there. And they did. And they have ever since.
I love that. I got chills when you said that. So,
Oh, thanks, honey. Well, let me say this, Jenny. I'm not the only one. Everybody has this. And I tell everybody I work for, I say, listen, I'm nobody special, really. I love myself. Don't get me wrong. I'm, pretty much in love with myself. But I can tell you that I'm no different than anybody else. I'm just a Jersey girl next door, have plenty of faults, made plenty of mistakes. I have a filthy mouth. If I start swearing, it's not good. And, but I'm from Jersey, so I have an excuse. But here's
Jersey
the
girl to
bottom
Jersey
line.
girl.
Yeah, that's it. That's it, honey. But it's a good way to get your point across. I can only tell you that every single one of us born in human form have this ability,
Mm-hmm.
and they have the same access that I have.
So,
And it is not only for special people. It is not only for certain walks of life. It's for every single person. It's so easy to achieve.
so
And you
let's,
do it every day. You just call it things like a coincidence or a gut feeling or my favorite. This one's my favorite. I don't know. Something just told me. I don't know.
yeah.
No, honey. It was someone told you.
Well, let's dive into that a little bit. So,
Okay.
for people who don't fully understand what mediumship is necessarily, how would you describe what's happening, within you energetically when you do connect?
Well, God, it's taken me, in my young life, I wasn't doing it professionally, so it wasn't as taxing.
Okay.
But I've been doing this now 25 years, and it has evolved into such a place that I don't know where. If I say exactly, I'll sound very vain, or I'll sound very conceited that I think I'm special, and that is not what I mean. I'm not vain, and I'm not conceited, but it has evolved into such a state now where, oh my goodness, I sense things beyond. I always did sense and hear, but now it's beyond.
Mm-hmm.
So it became, if you will, sometimes a little scary.
Okay.
No, not sometimes. It does become scary. Yeah. And it does become scary Because first, you have to understand, number one, there's a war going on right now. We don't see it. It's in the energy field, but it's between good and evil right now.
Okay.
And the devil is desperately, desperately trying to win. God always wins, so let me tell your audience, don't worry, God always wins. However, the devil is trying to recruit new recruits, and especially those of us who truly have faith in God, especially those of us who understand the importance, the benefit, the love. What comes from faith in God is huge. And that's the ones the devil really is going after. Because they can turn that person, if they can turn that person into one of their followers. Oh, I hate even talking about this, but it happens, honey, and they've gone after me.
Oh,
That
wow.
dark side has gone after me, and that's where it becomes scary.
Okay.
I have great faith, though, so I call every single hierarchy angel, and I call Michael the archangel to put up his mighty sword. I mean, I call for protection, but it's going on, and it's going on with every single person, and that's why you're hearing things, you're seeing things that are like you would have never thought you'd ever see or hear on the news. But it's I don't even want to get into that except to tell you that after 25 years. And it's like anything else that you exercise. When you start out and somebody tells you, we got you a two-wheeler bike for a birthday present, and you look at it, you never saw one before, and then they tell you, oh, yeah, you sit on that seat, you can ride it down the street.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then what you do is you just go, no, I can't do that. And somebody says, oh, yes, you can. Sit on the seat. They give you confidence. They hold the handlebar. Okay, I'm going to guide you. And then you start. No, you're awkward. You're falling. You're tipping.
Yeah.
You're this. Right? But what happens if you don't give up? What happens if you keep at it? You just keep on going, baby. And then what happens if you really, really want it? Then you're riding in races, cross country. You're speeding down the road on your two-wheeler.
That's
the
true.
the one that in the beginning you said, I can't do that. So it's like anything else that you practice and that you keep at it. And that's what's happened to me.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm sure, like you said, everybody has these abilities within them, but I
Mm-hmm.
imagine many people kind of brush it off as like,
Oh,
oh,
yeah.
that's
Mm-hmm.
nothing. They doubt
Mm-hmm.
themselves. So,
Yeah. Well, I tell people a coincidence is nothing more than God's way of remaining anonymous.
mm,
And, for those folks who go past that and say, well, I don't believe in that, because I've met them all. And I always tell people, listen, don't judge me. Just have a good time.
yeah,
And if you still walk away from me feeling that way, you have a right to feel that way. And
right.
I'm not going to judge you.
Yeah,
It's okay. But just understand that this gives me great peace and great joy.
yeah.
And and I like to say it gives others that. And if it does, so be it. Let them enjoy it,
Well,
and just sit back and don't judge.
and
That's the
I,
problem with our world today. We're
I
judging
agree.
everything. You know what I mean?
I mean, that's exactly like why I wanted to, start this podcast because I want to express, topics like this and have
Right,
conversations with individuals who have had these experiences so others can get
right,
exposed to it. And then instead of
right,
being, anti that, potentially lean a little bit into it and see maybe I have those abilities. How can I evolve myself and,
right. Mhm.
transcend?
Mhm. Absolutely, sweetie. Well, I admire you for that because that is what they call the beginning.
Mm,
That's your beginning. And I would suggest that you don't give up because the more you search for something, the more you will find it.
mm.
But you know the old saying, be careful what you wish for. Because I must tell you that they will show you what you want to see.
Mm,
But what you want to remember is, are you prepared for it? So that's why I tell people when they say what you just said to me,
yeah.
I say, darling, I give you credit. I want you to try it. It'll help you. But the best start I could give you, the best advice I could give you is to stay plugged in to God. That is your best, because as long as you do everything saying, I am a child of the Most High God, and I
Mm,
don't care what religion you are, I really
hmm.
don't. It doesn't matter because God created all of them.
Right.
But here's the thing, hon. We're all the same, and we should love each other despite our differences. Okay, that said,
Hmm.
you want to remember that we need protection at all times.
Right.
And your faith is the choice to make. Because I can tell you firsthand, I could tell you things you would never believe that have happened to me, the proof that I've seen, and I tell you that God will protect you.
We'll have
And
to
he
have that
will,
conversation another time. I would love to hear some of
yeah.
those stories.
Oh yeah, there's many of them, and I try to write them down because so many things happen.
Yeah.
I don't just get what I do is move on with my own personal life. I don't stop and write everything down,
Mhm.
which I wish I did and wish I could. But some of the stuff I obviously did when I was the last book. But after my last book, I was so tired because now I've written 4 books,
Mhm.
and I just have been a little more lax in keeping notes. But I remember things for myself which have happened to me, and it's amazing. I mean, it's utterly amazing.
I believe that.
There's no, listen, I can tell you this. I promise you, I am not a liar. And I promise you that I don't make anything up. And I will stand by everything I've ever said because I have to meet my maker someday. And I'm not going to go there having somebody say to me, why'd you tell those people that? You know what I mean? Because I
Yeah.
am a huge believer. I have great faith in God. So when you start with any kind of mediumship or whenever you're doing in any way of life, stay plugged into God. It's your best ally. It's the best advice I could give out of all the things I could talk about.
Mhm. I mean, I think
Yeah.
that's a really good point you're making because with everything that's happening today and how spirituality is becoming much more visible as well as
Mm.
mainstream, how can people really know who
Well,
or what to trust?
well, let me just say that I think spirituality is the biggest discovery of the 21st century.
Mhm.
That is how I feel. The biggest discovery, because people are really coming into their own
Mhm.
and realizing, we've been spoon fed, since the beginning of time. Since the beginning, when you go back to the 11th century, you couldn't even read the Bible. You couldn't even you couldn't talk about the Word of God. You had to let somebody else do it who they felt was qualified and what they felt they should tell you what you should do.
Mhm.
Now it's gotten, thank God, to the point where our minds are open. We're hungry for this information. Make up your own mind. I told you I don't differentiate with religions as long as they don't start with you better do it my way or you got to go.
Amen. I agree
If you don't
completely.
do it my way, then we're going to come for you. No, 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 no. I celebrate everything. Somebody
Mhm.
welcomes me to any kind of celebration for whatever religion it is, and they want me to come and party with them, have a dinner with them, and do whatever they do. I'm there. I want to
Yeah,
learn. I want to
absolutely.
see. And if it's done with love, oh, so be it. We should all be sharing that.
A hundred
You know
percent.
what I mean? And I just draw the line when they, well, I hate to get into this, and I won't, but I will say this to you. I don't like it when they start thinking women don't have any rights and, they should have rules and restricted on them because men are in charge. I have a problem with that.
Yeah.
I got a real problem
Yeah.
with that, and I'm not going to get too deep into that because I don't want to offend anybody. But if you were talking to me personally, privately, I would spell it out for you.
I would just pose that if, at the core, if God is intended to be love and all loving, then
Right.
that's really what matters. And all of the other things that you're referencing are, you know, they should not be because that kind of removes the whole all loving component of it. So,
Absolutely. It just does one thing, puts men, there are religions that just put men in charge. Women have no rights. They have no say. They have nothing, nothing, nothing. Or their children don't even belong to them, whatever. To me, that's crazy. I'm
yeah.
sorry.
Or even
And
just,
I don't believe that see, I'm getting into it and I didn't want to, but I don't believe any God would be on board with that, because
yeah.
we're humans. We're all humans.
Yeah.
And God created both man and woman, and I don't think He created men to be uh, have different rules applied to them. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because they're men. No, no, I don't think so.
And I think that's like one example. There's so many different aspects of different religions that people can
Right.
point to. But I would just ask whoever is listening to, like we said in the beginning, really see the full picture of what's being presented and come up with their own
Right.
opinion versus listening to
Absolutely.
someone else.
I told you that. I respect all. I
Mm-hmm.
respect everybody's. But for me personally, there are some things that I'm very grateful for, that I was
Absolutely.
born who I am, where I am, and all the things. I'm very grateful
Understood.
because I had the right to write a book. I had the right to have a voice,
Yeah,
and those are things I'm very grateful for.
definitely. And
Mhm.
that's wonderful.
Yeah.
So, we've kind of touched on this a little bit, but when this work is done in
Mhm.
with integrity, I'll say, there's almost a ripple effect where it's
Mhm.
affecting everyone. How do you feel gifts like mediumship can contribute to, raising our collective consciousness? And what does that look like on an everyday level?
Well, you said it best. We are at a time where this subject is acceptable and growing, and it's being discovered.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that mean when those things happen? People's minds are opening up.
Right.
It could change the world. And it could also change, like you said, a ripple effect. I'll give you an example. I've met people who, we'll just say a husband and wife, and the wife was really on board and she really believed in whatever it was that I could offer. She
Okay.
gets her husband a reading to come and talk to me or see me, talk to me, whatever. And then this is a guy who definitely didn't believe in any of this, has no faith, thinks I'm, a boardwalk psychic, and he gets me and we're talking, and now all of a sudden whatever I say to him, it resonates with him. Now I'm telling him things there'd be no way and he would know that I would ever know.
Mm.
So, he's got to now either have two choices: deny, deny, deny,
Mm-hmm.
or embrace, embrace, embrace. And this has happened. In fact, this just recently happened in one situation, which I love, because I see a lot of people, but I have a very dear, I'll give you a better example, a very dear, dear friend. I love her. And she's dating this guy who's an alcoholic. And he's a nice guy, but when he's drinking, he's a real Stugotz. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And yeah, so she said, for a long time now, he's got issues, whatever they are. But whatever it is, he made fun of me. He told me he didn't believe in God. Woohoo, I get a chill when I even say that. But, it was sad, very sad. But he's a nice guy when he's not drinking. Anyway, long story short, he's been in recovery now. And my friend told me, Concetta, he read 2 of your books.
Oh,
And
wow.
he's really taken by them, because he's searching now. He's in recovery and he's searching, okay,
Yeah.
for something to hang on to, a life jacket. So I'm not saying I'm that, but he just read 2 of my books. So he told her, I really wouldn't mind if Concetta did a reading for me. So when she told me that, I said, we put it together right away.
Okay.
And fortunately, and it's a long, detailed story, I'm making it very short. Afterwards, she told me that he's in love. Oh, he's in love with me, but he's not in love with me. She said he loves your work. He can quote things from your books, things you
Wow.
said to him. He's telling me he believes in God. He goes to church now, and I'm just like, you know what? If I can bring one person back to God,
Yeah.
that's worth a million to me.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm all that in a bag of chips, because I'm not saying that. I told you I'm an average Jersey girl. But if I can get somebody to see that there's more to it, and that they can change and they can make a decision that it helps them not to whatever their behavior was prior to that, if it makes
Mm-hmm.
changes that makes their life happier or healthier, I'm very happy if that happens. And so I forget where I was going with this, but that's why I say everybody has a right to believe what they want. And if the person decides, nope, wasn't impressed, you didn't tell me anything that impressed me, then I told you what I said. That's okay. It's
Yeah.
all right. You have a right. You have free will. God bless you.
Yeah.
Be happy. Whatever your life is, be happy. You
But
know?
that is a great example of that ripple effect we were referencing
Oh,
because
there's where I was going. The ripple
yeah.
effect. Yes, it goes to now he had no relationship with his kids. They were so angry for things that happened, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And that I heard last they got together.
Wow.
It's like a ripple effect, and
Yeah.
now he's being nicer to people. He's being kind. And he's got a better chance of having some empathy, and the empathy is the most wonderful, I think, thing that a human being could have if they have
Mm.
empathy, because
Mm-hmm.
it always comes back to you. I
Yeah.
know because I'm empathetic myself, and I've met people who don't have a clue how to extend empathy.
Mm.
And those people are pitiful. And oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that, but I feel sorry for them because if you don't know how to give empathy, you're not going to get much. And if unless somebody feels sorry for you for a moment, but it's not going to last.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because it's a divine emotion to have. Oh, I know I said too much. Okay,
It's
sorry. Go
okay.
ahead.
No, I mean, I was thinking about what you said, and it's of the same vein. I think like the more we can show empathy to others, the more someone
Mhm.
who might not necessarily know what that feels like will
Yeah.
feel that feeling. And then eventually in time, we might not see it, but maybe they would then express that to others.
Absolutely. It has what I call a domino effect.
Yeah.
You talk about it being a ripple effect, same thing.
Yeah.
Domino effect. Yes.
So
Yeah,
everything's
absolutely.
connected. And then at that time, we're all learning and growing and then raising the
Right.
vibration of the planet, which is really
Right.
beautiful.
Definitely.
So,
I
Conchetta,
agree.
before we close, is there one thing that you wish more people understood about the spiritual world?
Oh, darling, I think that's such an excellent question. And it's I will tell you an answer, but I want you to know there are so many answers to that question I
I'm
wish
sure.
for. I've probably got a list that goes on for miles, and you don't have enough time for it. So I will say this: one of the top three important for me is, and it will always be, believe, trust, embrace
Mm,
God, because I'm telling you, it's true. There is a place beyond this place. It's not in the clouds. It's certainly not in the dirt. It is home. This
yeah.
place is Camp Earth, and we are going to go there. And the way to get in, the easiest way, is to just make that choice of faith.
Hmm.
So if you ask me, that would probably be my favorite to tell people. And again, I say it again. I don't care what faith you come from, because it's all the same.
Yeah.
God created it all.
Wh-
So whatever it is, as long as it is based on love and respect for fellow man, go for it, baby.
Yeah. And I do
Mhm.
think one of the human constructs that, like we have to define everything, right? So, like, from a
Right.
human brain perspective, you may be
Right.
calling it God. I want to, also state on this episode that other people might call it other things, but there
Right.
is no one right word to define what it is. It's like
Right.
just consciousness, the
Mhm.
universe, God, whatever you name it, it's the same concept.
Right.
So,
Exactly, honey. It's got there that you cannot say right from wrong, because it all is right. It all is right. There's nothing harmful that can come from saying, I believe in God.
mhm,
It's just nothing wrong with that. Yeah, I agree. I agree with you.
I love that. Well, thank you so much,
Oh,
Conchetta.
thank you. Well, thank you, Jennifer, for having me on. I was really looking forward to this. You're a lovely girl, and I hope that you were happy when I did a reading for you.
I was honestly, I was so grateful that you offered to do this with me. Thank you so
Oh,
much for
honey,
the
that's
conversation.
great. Thank you, my darling. I wish you well, success, and I hope to talk to you again sometime in the future.
Sounds great. And to everyone
All right.
who is listening to this, thank you so much for being here, and you will see us next time on the JEM Podcast.